a rather wet and grey London, but more importantly, welcome to the Polestar 1. I've been looking forward to driving this car for absolutely ages, since I drove the Polestar 2 earlier in the year. So Polestar is a sibling of Volvo in a way. It used to be Volvo's sort of performance brand, a bit like their AMG, back when Volvo was in the touring cars. Polestar now is sort of its own company, both owned by Geely, the Chinese automotive giant that also owns Lotus. So Polestar, it's kind of its own thing, but the Polestar 1 here, there is a little bit carried over from Volvo. I'll discuss that in more detail in a minute. Whereas the Polestar 2 and all future Polestars will be fully electric, the Polestar 1 is a hybrid, and it's a really interesting hybrid. This is a really complicated car. Where shall I start? There's an engine. The engine's in the front, it's a 2-litre 4-cylinder, it's turbocharged and supercharged, and it drives the front wheels. Then the rear wheels are driven by a pair of electric motors, one on each wheel. There's also an electric motor somewhere in between on the gearbox, and a 34, I think, kilowatt-hour battery, and that's sort of in the transmission tunnel, and in the back makes the boot quite small. So it's a hybrid, but it's got 600 horsepower total, 1,000 newton meters of torque, which I think is 738 foot-pounds of torque in old money. Obviously it's four-wheel drive, and because it's got such a large battery, it's actually got really good range. It can do about 60 miles on electric-only driving, and up to motorway speeds. I believe the battery pack in this is bigger than it is in some electric cars. Like the electric Mini's battery is smaller than the battery in this. So it's a deeply impressive car at a technical level, even before you start driving it. Now all of that complexity does add a bit of weight. It's really heavy. It's 2.3 tons. Which is a huge amount. I was talking to people yesterday about this, down at Goodwood, which pops along to go and watch a track day, and I was talking to people in the paddock, and they couldn't believe how much it weighed. 2.3 tons, very, very heavy. For the kind of car it is, it's a 2+2 coupe. It's 2 doors, 2 small seats in the back. I haven't tried to get in yet. I probably could, but adults of a more sensible size won't find it that comfortable. So it's 2+2, beautiful car. Oh goodness me, it's so handsome. It's such a good looking car. Some really neat details. The frameless doors, frameless windows rather. The frameless wing mirrors, which I think look absolutely brilliant. They're on the Polestar 2 as well. Really like them. And it's just a really good looking thing. It's muscular without looking too aggressive. It's sort of got muscle car vibes to it, Ford Mustang kind of vibes to it, but in a more restrained way. Like, it's really smart, great bit of design. I love the sharp crease that goes along the shoulder of the car. I'll show you that separately. I think that looks great. And it's got a carbon fibre body, or carbon fibre reinforced composite, whatever body. Again, really impressive. And all of this is probably sounding quite expensive. I haven't even got to one of the highlights yet, which is the Öhlins dampers. Now, Polestar have done this with the Polestar 2 as well. I don't know if they've got a bit of a deal on Öhlins dampers, but both cars have got them. And they're the kind of thing you'd put on your track day project car. They're hugely capable. And in the Polestar 2 they're a little bit firm, although I haven't tried them on a softer setting, so you can turn them up and down. On the Polestar 1, they suit the car. I don't know if it is a little bit softer than the 2. From memory, it possibly is, but here it makes more sense. This is more of a sporting car. It's a car that you want to be a little bit more dynamic in the way it drives. And God, the suspension's fantastic. The dampers are absolutely brilliant. And you notice it all the time. There's just a quality and a refinement to the ride that you notice immediately, even just going over a speed bump. You notice that there's just one movement each way. The wheels go up and back down, and that's it. The body moves up and down, and then it's flat. There's no further movement. It's wonderful. It's a great ride. All of that technology, complexity, and performance, it means it's not a cheap car. It's about £140,000, and many options. It's pretty much fully loaded as standard. Right, we're going to be childish here. So rolling start, floor it. Bloody hell. Oh, that's 60. Whew. That took my breath away a little bit. It's got that real electric car surge to it, where it just doesn't let up, and it's got an automatic gearbox, so you know, you do have gear changes unlike a regular or a fully electric car. But God, it really shifts. It's almost disconcerting because you get the initial launch, you think, okay, this car's accelerating quickly, but then it just maintains that level of acceleration for longer than you expect. Yeah, it's quick. It's a beautifully fitted cabin as well. Anyone who's been in a recent Volvo will recognise quite a lot of it. The infotainment screen, the air vents, most of the switchgear, you will recognise from a modern Volvo. And that's no bad thing. Volvos have got really nice interiors and are probably punching above their weight in that regard. Only in here, the leather's a bit nicer, it's a bit more interesting, the stitching's really nice, there's a bit more detail to it. And some of the switchgear has changed, like the quite smart, sort of crystal-like gear selector. I quite like that. And the Bowers & Wilkins sound system as well. Looks good, sounds good. Really happy with that. And the carbon fibre details on the doors and on the dashboard give it that sort of sporting character. You might notice this car's left-hand drive, and that's the only option with the Polestar 1. And because they're making it in such small numbers, they're only making 500 a year for 3 years, so 1,500 total. So yeah, it's only available in left-hand drive, so you're really unlikely to see one in the UK. I'd love to know how many they sell. For 140,000, 2+2 coupe, what have you got? You're looking at sort of Mercedes, Bentley, Aston Martin kind of money, if you include second-hand. So you have to say no to all of those brands and go for the Polestar instead. Yeah, I can see myself doing that. I think anyone who just wants something a little bit different, you know, that whole cliche of wanting to stand out at the golf club with something that's a little bit different, a little bit rarer, a little bit more of a curiosity than your common or garden Bentley. Yeah, I think the Polestar 1 would fit that remit perfectly. Whether you could fit your clubs in the boot is perhaps another issue. I suppose you could put them in the back where you'd normally put your children. But yeah, I'll show you the boot later. It's small, but what I love about it is how Polestar's really embraced the fact that this car's a hybrid and it's complicated and it's full of big electric cables, because they're on display in the boot. I'll put an image in now. I think that's great. I really like it. Right, anyway, I'm going to crack on for a bit now. I'm driving up to Caffeine Machine. I've not been before. It's been open a couple of years. I think they're celebrating their second birthday this coming week, actually, from tomorrow. Caffeine Machine is. I mean, I've heard good things over the last couple of years and seen loads of content on social media, but that was my first time there and I was really impressed. Yeah, I thought on a sort of cold and miserable late October morning and with various COVID restrictions all over the place, I didn't expect it to be all that busy. But yeah, it was packed. It was really busy. Great crowd, really good bunch of people. Just sort of stood around having a coffee and a bit of breakfast and looking at cars. It was great. And a lot of people came to the Polestar, again, like they did at Goodwood yesterday. Yeah, people just like it. People really like it. I think people are curious initially, although I suspect the crowd at Caffeine Machine is pretty clued up. I heard a lot of people mentioning Polestar as I was walking around, so I guess most people knew what it was. But yeah, as soon as I turned in, I didn't really know where I was going. I just turned in off the road, and loads of people were taking my photo, which was quite funny. So I sort of stopped for a moment while they did that, and yeah, it was good. Really enjoyed it.
Continue on B100 for 2 miles.
God, it doesn't half shift when you put your foot down. But I suppose it should with all that torque, but blimey. It's so effortless as well, the way it picks up. I've got it in power mode now, which when you select it, it says it's for sporty driving. And yeah, it really does pick up and go, despite the weight. What else to say of the Polestar? Well, it's a lovely place to sit. That cliche of it being a nice place to be, well, it is. It's lovely in here. The performance is all you could ever need. It's really, really quick. You do feel the weight a little bit, especially when you're on the brakes from higher speed. Yeah, it is a heavy car. There isn't much you can do to disguise that beyond what Polestar has done, but they have done a pretty good job. The suspension's fantastic. It's a little bit firm at lower speeds, but once you pick up a little bit, it's like the dampers have dialed in and they're more comfortable in that situation. Which gives you real confidence as well in the car. Like, you know it's heavy, you know it's a big thing, but the suspension really gives you the confidence to sort of to exploit the performance that it can offer. I will mention the economy of the car briefly. As with a lot of hybrids, Polestar give this crazy claim of it doing, I think, 400 miles per gallon, which is just nonsense. Obviously because the battery could be helping you out loads, and that's in real, like, optimal conditions when you're charging it up loads. If you let the battery run out, yeah, you can just go and plug it in, which is the best thing to do, obviously. You can use the engine to recharge it, as you can with other hybrids. And while that sounds quite convenient, it just destroys the MPG. I had it switched on to recharge just to see what would happen earlier, driving through London, and I was getting 12.5 miles to the gallon, according to the car's own system, which isn't very good, obviously. Once I got on the motorway, that doubled quite quickly up to sort of mid-20s, which is more acceptable given, you know, what the engine's doing. It's driving the car, a heavy car, and it's refilling a big battery. But really, you shouldn't be filling it that way. You shouldn't be charging it that way. As with any electric car or hybrid, the best course of action is to plug it in every night. Get a charger at home, plug it in, like you plug your phone in, and it'll be fine. And with the Polestar 1, you don't need to plug it in every day anyway, because it does 50 or 60 miles on a charge. And that's a lot more than most people's daily commute. So you could just run it on electric a lot of the time. The variety of vehicles that were there today was just fantastic. There was, you know, a Ferrari and a Lamborghini and some, I don't know what, an old VW sort of pickup type thing that had been modified and looked brilliant. And then this that got loads of attention, a hybrid Volvo, got loads of attention when the other cars on offer are Italian supercars. I think that says a lot for, not only for Polestar and for the design of this car, but for the concept of hybrids and electric cars generally, is that they are interesting now. Tesla's helped a lot there for sure, but now there are cars for petrolheads, there are hybrids and electric cars for petrolheads. And that's such a wonderful